Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the next episode of SAVE Overwatch.
The Toronto Defiant will not be denied.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special episode of SAVE Overwatch. With I'm one of your hosts, Spencer. With me is Chris, as always. But as you guys can tell, we are joined by a very special guest, the one and only Toronto Defiant content creator himself, KarQ. KarQ, how's it going?
What's up, everybody? I'm doing good. How are you guys on this lovely evening?
Doing pretty good myself. Again, I'm excited for this episode because not only are we joined by a very special guest, but we actually have an extremely exciting topic to touch on today. And that was, of course, if you're an Overwatch fan and you were living under a rock and you didn't know, Overwatch 2 had a lot of exciting news that was actually announced recently. So I'm excited to sort of jump into that and sort of give our thoughts, not only about the future of Overwatch 2, but also sort of the current state of Overwatch 1. Because while I do think Overwatch 2 is very, very exciting, it's not like it's coming out tomorrow. And that unfortunately means that that some stuff is sort of being, once again, another year without content. So without further ado, let's just sort of jump into this thing.
But first, no. Before we do, without further ado, if you like this content, guys, please give it a like and subscribe. Smash the like button as hard as you smash your desktop, when you lose a ranked game. And if you have your own thoughts, just put it in the comment section. We respond to everything. We love to have a good discussion.
Yeah, and let us know what you guys think about Overwatch 2, because this was something when I watched it, I was like, yo, people are going to love this. This is hype. I'm super excited. And then not everybody did. I thought it was going to be positive, but it ended up being surprisingly polarizing. So I'm really excited, especially for the people who were not so excited for Overwatch 2. Please tell me why.
Yeah, please tell me why. So I guess first off, let's just let's jump right into Overwatch 2. Let's talk about some different stuff. I think we should start from my general sense, maybe from more of a higher level, and just kind of work our way down. And one way I want to talk about that is talk about some of the reworks, I guess, to PvP. So I know one really, really big thing that they're touching on is that they were going to, release things to Overwatch 1 that would make sense for Overwatch 1, but they'd leave, any big reworks or fundamental shifts for Overwatch 2. And I think there's two, for me, really big reworks that I foresee, apart from, adding random content and heroes. And the one is the idea of having one less tank. So kind of having a super tank with 5 people. That idea's been floating around. It's not necessarily something that's out yet. And the second is having passive abilities for, all the roles. I think for tank, less knockback, DPS, I think they faster movement. And for healing, they have self-passive heals. So I wanted to put out to both you guys, Nathan, KarQ, and Spencer. First off, with a drop of a tank, how do you think that's going to change the dynamic? And is it something that you guys like and I think will be a good change?
It's odd because a lot of games are 5 versus 5 based, at least the ones that I played growing up, shooters. So when Overwatch came out and it was off to 6, and with all these abilities, I wasn't sure how the balance would be, but obviously, the game's been around for 4.5 years and we've seen a lot of success, obviously. So it's going to be weird if they trim one entire hero off and make one super tank and they get the rolls down. There would have to be a lot of shifts and numbers being changed. The thing about balancing, one less hero in the tank role, it's you can't even just adjust for tanks. That would actually change the dynamic of a lot of the other heroes too, because a lot of them stem off of, healing 2 tanks and, getting your ult charge at a certain pace and rate because you're healing 2 tanks or pocketing 1 or pocketing 2, having to worry about 2, even for damage, let's say like a Sombra, for example, now your priorities, instead of picking one or the other, you just have to worry about one, and one thing to shut down a tank could, throw everything into a disarray. So I personally don't like the idea. I'm a pretty big advocate of change. A lot of people are uncomfortable with it. I'm actually always like, yeah, let's try this out. This is cool. But the one less tank thing off the bat feels weird to me, just because we've been in 2-2-2 for a while now, and I don't know. my initial reaction to that is I don't like it, but obviously I haven't tried it.
Yeah,
What do you
I think
think?
that's a good perspective, especially since obviously like none of us have tried it, and it'd be hard to like give it like a proper, I think, explanation until you actually know how it would be balanced, but also be actually getting to sit down and play with it yourself, right? Like obviously that would change a lot of different things, but I would say that personally, like, I know there's a little bit of bias here, but like my favorite role in Overwatch, and honestly the reason why I fell in love with Overwatch was the off tank role. Like I'm not a Zarya one trick, like I can play all the off tanks, but I'm basically a Zarya one trick. Like my favorite parts of Overwatch, and like the reason why it really got me hooked, to be honest, was actually how the off tank and main tank, like that teamwork collaboration, how they work together is like one of the most intriguing parts. Like I love the fact that like if somebody goes monkey, okay, I can go diva and we can like dive in together. If somebody picks Reinhardt, you can pick Zarya. You coordinate your bubbles, you coordinate your aggression to build charge, to get the Reinhardt to get his charge, like ultimate charge. Like I really enjoy those aspects of the game, and even to a lesser degree, but like Sigma and Orisa, and everyone sort of hates on them. Like I still like actually kind of enjoy the like trying to like use your shields in proper times, right? Is she fortified? Okay, she can take some damage. So I'll put my shield away and recharge it while I can, right? Like all those aspects are like some of the favorite parts of Overwatch. And it's actually one of the reasons why like I personally like despise Ball. Like Ball is like one of my least favorite characters in the game, but it's because it like really incentivizes a very solo style of gameplay, especially in the tank role. Like if somebody goes Ball, I'm like, okay, what do I do? Like at best, like, if you want to actually do the collaboration, like you go Diva. But when Ball Sigma was meta, like the Sigma also just kind of goes on his own, right? And like sort of plays, it's like you have two separate tanks as opposed to like one tank line. So I like don't like it at all. I actually think that was the one thing that I came away where I was like, you know what, I'm actually like not a big fan of this. But I also am only speaking from like a plat/diamond perspective, and I don't really know what it's like in like top 500 or like GM, where like maybe tanks are like a little bit more oppressive or meta defining. But
just to kind of preface that too, and ping it back to somebody who is higher level, Nathan. For me, when I think about the drop of a tank, I like to think about the level of team play and team coordination at different levels and different ranks. For me, you know, as you go higher in the ranks, you have more and more team coordination, but that team coordination starts at an inter-role level. So you have a tank starting to, work more together, and then maybe when you get higher and higher, and this theory could be totally wrong, when you get higher and higher, then you have more, coordination in between, DPS and tanks or supports and tanks. For me, it's easiest as a tank to just coordinate with another tank first.
Lower levels, yeah.
It would, at a lower level. So I feel like you'd be taking that away, and you'd be taking away a level of coordination at lower levels.
Agreed. But you're actually on the ball though. I think in a perfect world, the main tank dictates the pacing, the shot calling, and where the team can play, where they can't play. Yeah. And I think that was agreed. And I heard that from Team Canada people. They're just like, we try to have our main tank do their best to kind of pick and choose where to take the fights and all that stuff. But that's not always the case. Of course, a lot of times the hero that may not require as many resources mechanically, sometimes the Mercy's shot call, because they are actually flying up in the air, they can kind of scout, they can kind of see everything, and they're kind of just holding the beam and they're coordinating. Okay, I see them here, let's go here. But that's totally team dependent. But I do think in a perfect world, the main tank ideally could have that could excel the best at that role. And again, having one less tank and all those little like interplays in between, that synergy kind of disappears, and it may, I wouldn't say ruin the experience, but really alter the feel for the tank role and alienate a big portion of the Overwatch 1 population, if that is the case for Overwatch 2.
Yeah, it's also one is stressful if you're the only tank on a team. Like a lot can like run on you. Like I think like the whole like tank difference, main tank difference would be even more like obvious, right? If your tanks can outplay, it might become an instance where it's like, oh, well, like their Ryan's better than our Ryan, we just lose because there's only one tank and our other tank can't sort of pick up that slack. And even more so, like, dude, I'm telling you right now, and like low diamond, high plat, gold, it's just, there's so many hog players. And like the last thing you want to do is like, it's one thing if somebody goes hog, especially since recently hog's been like kind of decent ish, especially when he was broken for the one patch. But if somebody goes hog, at the very least, like your other tank can maybe like go like Reinhardt or go Orisa or go like Monkey, right? And you got like one who's playing like an individualistic playstyle, but you actually have another tank who can come in there and sort of play more like shield for the team, if you will. But if you just have one tank and that person plays like an off meta pick with no shield like Hog, like I could see that like causing even more frustration than there already is. Like it reminds me of like pre 222 roll lock where like it was just an absolute gong show and nobody would pick shield and everyone just like lost their mind.
Yeah. No, the thing about one tank is like it would the tank dictates how the rest of the team would play too. So some DPSs who are like hit scan, and like having a shield in front, if that one tank on your team in like a 5v5 Overwatch version, like they decide to play, like a solo-esque kind of tank style, then the DPS like, well, I can't really excel in my role now because mine tends to favor like having a shield or something like that, for example. So then they get upset. It's like, our tank is not playing like the one that's meta, blah blah blah. Now I can't play my role, and there are a lot of things just snowball into effect off of one role. They're going to be the target of everybody in each game. We win because we have the better one. We win because they have the better one. We have the worst tank. I think that's where the fingers are first going to go to.
Yeah, I agree. And just a quick, I guess, note on the passives too. I feel like we just came out of an era that was like that power up era. Like Overwatch and the devs like specifically, made steps to power down some heroes. Do you think the passives are going to bring us back to kind of like that power up era? Like, do you think that it's going to make like all heroes just a little too OP in general?
I think if they do add that, some things would have to be fine tuned. If all supports had like self heal, for example, some of them already do in a way, like Mercy, Zenyatta in theory with his shields. And maybe Lucio if he's a walking aura. Same with Brig if you get the passive. So they kind of already exist, but like heroes like Ana and stuff would excel with it even more because they don't have to expend a nade to heal herself at that point, for example. So then balance will be changed. But I actually like the idea of role passives. It kind of gives each role a bit more of a unique identifier. And what's the difference right now between saying like, some of the off tanks are just glorified DPSs. I always think Zarya is just a tankier DPS hero, and so is Roadhog in a sense, right?
That's why I play her.
Spencer's like, I'm just off tank.
You're pretty much a DPS player. Yeah, you have tank traits, I guess, with this bigger HP pool. But let's face it.
Yeah,
Zarya can totally be taking the gold damage.
Oh, 100%. You're like a tank. You're like a DPS like utility because your bubbles can be used, in like a tanking manner where you can like enable certain playstyles with your Reinhardt or like save somebody who's been, like hooked or something like that. But yeah, you're totally right. I definitely play Zarya like.
What's the difference? So I think the role passives actually make it more meaningful to play a certain role. So I like that idea. That one seems more of something that would actually see less friction between the community for something to go live versus like removing one complete tank and just making it a 5v5.
I also really like the tank one that like kind of, I don't want to say got swept under the rug, but I think was one of the more interesting ones, and that was that they generate less ult charge for being shot. Which I think would be really interesting for how, like, especially DPS players play the game. Like, I know myself, again, my DPS is my worst role at lower levels. I just shoot tanks. It's just easier for me. I know it's not the way that you should play DPS. Like, I'm well aware that you should probably try to take flanks and like pressure their squishies in the back line. But I'm like, like Roadhog, like I'll just farm my ult and shoot Roadhog. Like, I think that's like a pretty big buff to one Roadhog specifically, but also just like kind of nerfs that entire playstyle. And I think it would help sort of, I don't want to say teach people to play the correct way, but it would put more emphasis, and I think you would be more rewarded on like actually going on those flanks, like trying to pressure the back line. Like I think it's like a really, really interesting change from that perspective.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the only other thought I have on this is that if you do add these, passive abilities, you're gonna have to make up with the heroes who currently have that to stay at the same power. Like Reinhardt, one of the things that
Reinhardt already has it.
Yeah. Like, so what are you going to add to like make him more appealing?
2 fire strikes.
He already has that.
So what are your thoughts on that? 2 fire strikes and a cancel charge.
Oh, that's
Reinhardt,
gross.
Since we're at the same thing.
I think that's pretty cool. I saw the damage. I think I paused it during the Overwatch 2 trailer. I think it did like 85. I think it was 85 or 80 with 2 charges. Right now, fire strike is 100 on a long cooldown. If you do 2 of them at 80 each or 85 each, it's like quite interesting.
That's quite nice.
If you're skilled and you hit both, it's valuable. If you just only hit one but you miss the other, it's still less than the damage on the other one.
And that brings us to I guess the next part of this, because we sort of talked about the passive changes that I actually do like. And even though we've knocked the one tank, there are like obviously positives to it, Q times being 1. And I could see some benefits and maybe just like less clutter on the screen, like a lot of people like that. But one change I was really excited about in terms of this was this idea that the tanks become like less hold your shield and stand in position and more about like these like tanky brawlers.
I actually don't like that.
You don't like, okay, so I'm a big fan of personally because again I like Zarya, and Zarya I think by definition is like a tanky brawler, and I think that playstyle is really fun. But like maybe that playstyle is really fun when somebody else is playing more of the tanky position. So KarQ, what is sort of, I'll ask KarQ first. He's the guest. What's your position on tanks becoming more and more of this like tanky brawler and less about like, holding shields and sort of maintaining the space?
Wait, this is pet for Overwatch 2, the direction they're trying to take with that?
Yeah, Overwatch 2,
Yeah.
Where they're less of tanks and they're more brawlers.
But wouldn't having more knockback make them more tanky and less brawl?
No, I think the point, Jeff was saying that he wanted to enable that playstyle. That's how you can cancel charge. So you can charge in, like close that space, not get booped away, get in their face and swing and like use their double fire strikes.
Oh, that was their direction was to make them more brawl instead of sit and shoot. Oh yeah, gotcha. Because like the words like brawl and stuff get thrown out a lot in comp, and like the idea of it is to get in there, and that currently exists, and to try to right now, like a lot of teams just really dislike playing the sit and hold a shield or put an Orisa thing down and just stand in one spot. I think it makes the game more dynamic and fluid, and I think that direction wouldn't be a bad thing per se. I think traditional tank, I mean, every game is different. A lot of people like to compare it to other stuff, but Overwatch is Overwatch. We don't have to necessarily have that playstyle where you do sit there and tank. I think the direction to just get in there, have that knockback reduction, go in, 2 charges, cancel, whatever, brawl. I think that works. It fits the criteria for what Overwatch is, like the identity of it, which is really fast paced.
Cool.
I do think there should be less standing in one spot, and
Yeah. And again, I'm a huge.
So I like that. I'm a fan of that. Yeah.
I'm a huge Goats fan, right? One of my favorite metas, and I just agree that again,
So fun.
Just that idea of like imagine how they would rework Monkey to make him more brawly, right? Like I don't know what you specifically would do, but I would really like to see like Orisa be reworked a little bit to make her less of just sit there and poke, and more like you can actually get in people's faces and like actually do some damage.
Okay, I'll provide a little bit of a contrasting opinion.
Yeah.
And it's probably unpopular. I mean, realistically, probably brawling is a little bit better. But I do kind of like the shield part because I feel like there's a lot of like skill sets and mechanics around shield management that is something that I don't know. I kind of like it. I kind of like it when you can like face up another Ryan and you've managed your shield better because you're working corners better, and you're allowed to charge better, and you like win that fight because you've done that. Or you're a Orisa or Winston and you like really know how to master shield dancing and can get some good kills on like traditionally hard to kill characters because of stuff like that. I feel like those skill sets will be less utilized in a more brawling manner, and it probably just like obviously I'll probably like brawling better, but I feel like that's definitely just a thought that I like as a main tank.
But I think
you go.
Sorry,
you
go ahead.
No, you go.
I think even if that's the direction they want to go, that won't necessarily if you still keep the 2-2-2 and you still have 6, even though you can brawl more, that doesn't mean you have to play them like a brawl hero. That's a thing too.
Okay.
So even though one play style where you kind of just go in there as Reinhardt because you're brawling can work, I feel like if there's a way to find a balance where it's actually still viable to have that whole shield duel and shield dancing and shield management depending on the comps, that would be like the perfect world for Overwatch where you can play multiple styles, and currently you kind of can in my opinion, depending on the hero. For example, I use the biggest example, it might be Sigma. You can actually just sit there and hold a spot and spam, but there's another complete different style where you take complete off angles, and you are like you actually like wrap around when the team's coming in like a chest fork, like your bishop is hanging all the way out here instead, like, and playing away from the rest of your team. Like those do exist and they can work. Another example would be like Lucio style. You can totally just like play with the team and speed them in collectively, or you do your own solo style and just go assassinate backlines. I think being able to have multiple styles is the goal they should have, rather than just
And my point was just going to be, I agree with you a lot. It was just sort of, I do think that if you do make Reinhardt more brawly, it doesn't remove that part of his kit. Like he still has a shield. I think in the trailer it was still 800. Like part of your kit as Reinhardt is still going to be to shield your teammate and to allow your DPS to take aggressive angles and try to get picks, right? Like that doesn't just like disappear with that. Like Orisa, I'm sure would still have a shield, and shield dancing would still be a thing, especially with like Winston. I think it would just be a more stuff where like again Reinhardt has more fire strikes. I also think the DPS being able to like run away from that and having increased speed is really, really interesting. Like it's stuff like this that like makes me excited about the direction they're taking with Overwatch 2, because I do think that after Overwatch 2 was initially sort of revealed, a lot of people, and like kind of myself included, were like pretty down on it. But I think that like once they really showed all of the stuff that they're willing to do, especially with like PvP, I'm like cautiously optimistic. Even though I am worried about the 5v5, the rumors, since it's not official, but I definitely would be willing to sort of give that a test drive. But yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. Okay. Next one, 2CP. So KarQ.
Gone. Thank you.
A lot of people.
Sorry, go ahead. I just had to get that out. Yes, it's gone.
Yeah,
that's just my first reaction.
All right, moving on. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, give a fuck. Get out of here. Okay. First off, I want to ask you, when it comes to maps in 2CP, do you like the maps and hate the game mode, or do you just hate the maps in game mode too? Because I'm not a big fan of 2CP, but I gotta say I really enjoy Hanamura, Volskaya, Anubis. Like I like those maps. They're to me, they're kind of like the only reason why I may even slightly like 2CP is because of those maps.
Like the map design, or just the?
I guess the map design, yeah.
I also like
the balance, because like I can easily say like Paris, beautiful map. Playing it is just. Can I swear?
Sorry.
No, okay.
You can swear. Yeah, you can swear. It's ass. Like
absolute. It's just ass.
Yeah.
It's just ass playing it,
Okay.
but beautiful. It looks beautiful aesthetically, but just that's why I was very cautiously optimistic when I saw like, oh, the new maps for Overwatch 2, oh, New York, and all this kind of stuff. But I'm just like, I mean, the last couple of maps in Overwatch are kind of, you know, they all look beautiful, but I don't like them that much. Minus like Rialto. I'm not a fan of Havana, Junkertown, or any of those like.
No, I agree.
Okay.
I think Rialto is one of my favorite maps, and Chris and I were talking about this before we hopped on, because I totally, Chris was like, I like 2CP, and I was like, man, I feel like you don't like 2CP. I feel like you like holding like 0.1 Volskaya, because I actually do enjoy like attacking and defending 0.1 Volskaya. I think that like the actual first attack is like kind of fun. It's just like once it stops being like a hybrid map and you actually attack the second point, that's when I'm like, oh, now this kind of sucks. So I was saying like, I wonder if it would be interesting that, because these are pretty iconic maps, and I do think that, like, again, some of them are pretty well designed, especially the first points, attack and defenses. I would love to see Overwatch 2 take those maps and obviously have the one in their current forms in the Overwatch 2 engine, but also maybe like expand and turn some of them into hybrids. Like I would love to see like a Hanamura rework where the first point stays the same, but there's like a whole other hybrid section to that map. Sort of what they talked about with King's Row, but I would like to see that instead of just for hero missions, actually go into the PvP.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially Anubis. I think Anubis is a really cool map too.
Yeah, I understand that. I'll say it now. I don't completely hate 2CP. I genuinely enjoy playing both attack defense on 0.1 and 2 on Hanamura.
I mean, that's reasonable. Like the general consensus, I think, is that most people do not enjoy it, but there are going to be some people who totally be like, oh, I mean, why? I actually really like this map. But me specifically, I just don't enjoy it as much as the other ones. And I find the balance of it really tricky, because I actually tested the distance, or at least the time to return back to the point to a reasonable sight line. It's like for defenders on like point B Hanamura to go from your spawn door to come like recontest again, it's like for like a non-mobile, no mobility, just like straight up walking, it's like 8 seconds to like enter the fight again. But if you're an attacker and like you can't, like it's like 28 seconds or 23 seconds to get back. So you can just see like, you know, if you're a defender on 2CP, if you can just secure one kill, it's like worth 2, because they take so long to come back. But even if you trade 1 for 1 as a defender, it's worth it, because you'll be back before they're even halfway back to the fight as well. So it's like,
so
I think
that's
what bothered
question
me.
for that though, is that a map design issue, or is that a 2CP issue?
It's 2CP, because that only exists in, I think, 2CP game modes, if I'm not wrong, right? For hybrid?
Well,
is the hybrid the same way?
at the end of like, third point payloads, you can find sometimes it might be tough
Yeah, that's true.
to,
That's a good point.
complete because if you
a good
die
point.
as an attacker, you got a long way back. Sometimes defenders just walk up the stairs. They're like, hey, I'm back.
Yeah.
But then the way you fix that is that even though that's the case, the defenders just need to have like a really tight chokehold. So like, like end of Gibraltar, for example, like despite the defenders just having to walk up the stairs, they can get like funneled. The attackers will have the sightline advantage, so they can just stuff everything in that little doorway before you get out. But on stuff like 2CP or like Anubis, it's not really reasonable to like wrap around that right corners or the corners on both sides to like actually camp that, because you need to be on the point, and then it kind of allows the defenders to come out and trickle out and like take multiple paths back out. But on end of Gibraltar, they just they're up the stairs, but then they can actually get stuck, So I feel like in 2CP it's just a lot harder of a task to tackle, and that's one of the frustrating parts of the game mode.
Yeah, no, I don't like the game mode as a whole because it annoys me that like you can win a team fight and get like no progress. Like I hate the fact that like if you win a team fight and like you said, like you went up with like 2 people left, but they were able to like trickle in people afterwards. It's like all those resources and that like that feeling that I won a team fight, like I should get some sort of progress, like on hybrid for instance, is like all negated because they just immediately come back and you don't even get a tick and you have nothing to show for it. So that was like a 45-second fight that I won, but like nothing has happened because we've lost. So like that's the part that I find most frustrating and irritating. So I'm really excited to see that kind of go. But I do think that there's like, I don't know, I maybe it's because I'm an Egypt fan or something. I love like, Temple of Anubis. I think that's like really cool, like Egyptian mythology. Like I'd love to see them sort of keep those still in the game, at least in some way, shape, or form. Especially if you could rework it into like a hybrid, and work on the spawns a little bit and maybe some of the choke points. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely good for that. Moving on then. I mean, we can bundle a couple of these together, but I guess let me think. Free to play. So, A, do you think it's gonna go free to play? B, is that something that you think is good for the community? I.e., like, do you think the new people added versus Smurfs is good? Like what are your thoughts on that?
First question, free to play. Will it go free to play? I'm like leaning towards yes. I'm pretty sure they want it to happen as well. It just depends on what the shareholders and everyone's like business model, all like what the upper people say. But I think the actual like Jeff and the team themselves do want it to go free to play. It just means more people get to play their game, right? But it's all at the end of the day, I think more of an executive decision and a business thing. But the goal is to go free. And do I like it? And do I think it's good? Yes, I think just the bigger the player base, the better, the more opportunities that things kind of like snowball and spread out. You get little smaller communities forming. Oh, we really like the mod community workshop stuff. Oh, we really like arcade. Oh, you get a competitive community. Like just more people filling out the player population also means faster queue times. Now the other issue is Smurfs and that kind of stuff. I think just put a restriction on competitive. I don't know, something like a phone number. Or whatever they use. I think in CSGO they use like a phone number literally attached to play ranked, or prime matchmaking is what they call it, I believe.
Yeah.
Or if you're just going to offer free to play, don't allow free to play players to play ranked. Allow them to consume, arcade and quick play casual, kind of like the World of Warcraft system where you can let people play for free up to, certain limitations. You can just play like up to a certain level. So in Overwatch, if you just play the free base version, maybe just Overwatch 1 will be free, and maybe it's just arcade, and that could be good. There's a huge population for that too. I think if you give people the small doses, the small tastes of it, it might make them more inclined to commit. And
I think I actually do think that's a pretty good idea. I was gonna say I feel like smurfing. I feel like it could be an issue, but if you just have enough people coming on, it's gonna dilute the Smurfs anyway.
Yes.
So you're,
say that argument too.
Player, I guess, is roughly the same. So I feel like smurfing wouldn't be too good of a or too bad of a thing. But I feel like what you just said about the World of Warcraft, maybe a good way to get people to come in and then pull them in and keep them there while still keeping the shareholders happy. And also just get people to learn it, because to get somebody now to buy it is such a hard thing considering how daunting it is, right? Spencer and I have buddies who just don't want to play Overwatch because this thing is so complicated and hard. I don't want to buy it,
Yeah, they don't know if they want to commit that kind of dollar.
Well,
Like it's not expensive per se, but it's still just a barrier of entry. And with the saturation of the market of good free games already available, like if I don't want to pay anything, I could just download Valorant, I can download League of Legends, I can download Apex, Fortnite, whatever you want. Those are all already free to access.
Yeah.
So
I'm of the belief that I'm a pretty big
Warzone,
proponent of
sorry.
it. No,
Yeah.
well, yeah, they're all. I think it has to go free to play. I think not that it has to. Like the game's not gonna die if it doesn't. Like obviously it has enough sustained player base. I think Overwatch 2 is gonna bring in more people. But I think that if you really want to grow the competitive community, which again, like obviously we do the Defiant podcast, like that's sort of esports is like what I really, really enjoy about Overwatch on top of the ranked playlist. If you want that to grow, I think making it free to play is like a massive way to do that. And even though I do agree, you would still be able to convert people if you just made like the arcade portion free, or if you made maybe quick play free and ranked only was like a small barrier to entry.
Maybe,
I do think
maybe you'd have to buy in. Yeah.
you still have to buy in, but I still think that you would, like, how many people really would you convert, right? Even if it's like a high number, like 40% of people who play arcade end up purchasing, the ranked pass, whatever you call it. I think that's a little bit high, but two, that's still 60% of the player base now, or the arcade player base, or whoever doesn't get an opportunity to play ranked because of it and experience or that part of the game.
That's just ranked though. It's like the Costco model, right?
Yeah.
You get the free sample, you get a taste, maybe you get the full package, or if anything, you'll do more research. Even if they only play arcade or quick play, they got a taste of it. They're like, oh, I wonder what it's like in Overwatch League. Then it really snowballs everything else as well. They're like, even if they don't buy the ranked pass, they have played it, they understand it. Now they can actually watch Overwatch League and the esport of it, but that's understand that too. And be a long-time viewer.
That's like, because I kind of disagree with that, because I actually think that right now Overwatch has a pretty big, like, quick play. Like, I think if you actually look at, like, the amount of people who play Overwatch and the amount of people who consume, like, other aspects of Overwatch, the amount of those who are actually converted to esports fans, I feel like is a pretty small number, especially in relation to, like, other games. So I actually don't know how many people, like, if you gave them the arcade, that they would go from arcade to the Overwatch League, because I actually think that that's an issue that Overwatch 1 currently struggles with.
Right.
So I'm not too sure if we
don't know the numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, just by sheer like raw, what do you call that?
Volume.
Yeah, just by sheer volume, I think it could work. If you have just this huge influx of free players, like you're bound to have some people just go like, oh, Overwatch League, I might as well check it out. Even if they just watch one game, but then you get a bunch of, just by volume, just like everybody checking out for the first time each and every stream, the numbers itself will still rise. But,
yeah, I can see that too. I feel like we have to wait for Overwatch 2 to see how they go at. But
right.
Yeah. Because
another thing is like monetization. I feel like if they go free to play, I feel like another way to satisfy those shareholders is monetization. I feel like, and you can once again agree or disagree with me, they've like pretty poorly monetized it so far.
Well, I think it's one of the worst.
I think I'm literally gonna just like copy Spencer right now and like just go this. Like he's like, Valorant's free to play, but like he spent like $100 in skins, like almost $200 in skins.
Oh yeah, I have like, so I've like 400, 500 hours in Overwatch, and I've already spent more money on Valorant than I have on Overwatch, including like buying the game.
Same.
And I played Valorant for like, I have like 20 hours in Valorant, right? Like literally, Valorant been out for a week, and I had spent more money in Valorant on those like initial Reaver skins in the beta than I did for Overwatch.
So did I.
500 hours played. Like I
got sucked into. You're not alone, man.
No,
I feel
and they're cool. And I'm a skins guy. Like if you had seen my Fortnite purchases, like don't worry. Like I know, I am like that kind of person where like the aesthetics.
Right.
Like I will pay extra money, especially if a game's free, to like one, support the developers, but two, to also just like look cool while doing it.
Yes.
I'm a big aesthetics fan, and there's a couple complaints with Overwatch 1 where like one, I think it's incredibly poorly monetized.
Agreed.
So only like, not only could you think if you made more money, could you support the esports community a little bit better too, but also would have more for like updates and all that sort of stuff.
It's a positive
all that
feedback
stuff.
loop.
Yeah, but also
It
the
is.
skins I think could also be significantly improved. And like the skins that they put out are cool, but the fact that it's like, man, I gotta wait like 3 months for a new batch of skins, and they're like, there's like 4. And they're all for characters that I don't play. It's like, shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? There was a new Zarya skin like every month. Like I would buy every single Zarya skin every single month. Like if she had new weapons specifically for Zarya that like evolved kind of like Valorant, right? Where they're like animated, or even like Call of Duty, right? They have those like animated ones. Like, man, like that, I feel like that's a goal. Man, there are so many like one tricks out there, or people who just like love Diva or love Mercy or love Genji, who would spend extra money for like Genji specific content. That's not just like, well, Genji gets a legendary skin like once a year. I'm like I don't know. I feel like it's a gold mine sort of waiting to be tapped, and I would really like to see them sort of revitalize that going into Overwatch.
I think that business model would work if the game goes free to play. That's how they monetize. But I think at the beginning, Jeff was like, well, since people bought into our, they do an initial purchase, everything should be free, all the events. So that was the initial model. But times have evolved since if the game came out in 2016, they thought about that model in like 2014, 15, whatever, whenever they do the business talks. And this is before the boom of free to play games and the skin market. I mean, League of Legends might have been the only one kind of doing that at first, but now they've seen the success of how Valorant, Fortnite, Apex are doing with the whole
Pass.
free, but you buy cosmetics, and the market for that is insane.
Did you ever play like Dota or Dota 2 or?
I haven't, but I heard they have like certain couriers and stuff like that are like 10 grand, 15, 20. I don't even know.
They have some crazy stuff. I mean, I was gonna say this stuff like I would love to see Overwatch. Don't think it's ever gonna happen, but like they all have like custom voice packs. So they have the Rick and Morty guys like do like basically just like these voice lines that they're placed in there, and you can buy it. And they have like Dead Mouse like make a track list for it. I was like, this is stuff that like skins plus like custom voice lines and like music. I like.
Yeah, they definitely have to visit that if the game goes free to play. But
just drop my wallet, just like take my card.
Just take my money.
Yeah, no, stuff like that. Like I think that's one of the biggest faults of Overwatch 1. I think that's one of the biggest things I'd like to see Overwatch 2 improve. Because I would like, man, give me like a Zarya skin like once a month, and like I'll pay you for it. Like it's fine. Like I'm not gonna go out there and like spend money on like a cool like San Francisco Shock like Doomfist skin. Like I don't play Doomfist. I've never played Doomfist. I don't know any of the mechanics for it. Right? Like it's a great skin. It's a cool skin, but it doesn't really do it for me personally.
Okay, this next one. This is an interesting topic that I actually am really interested to hear you bring on crossplay. So cross with different platforms. Do you guys like think it should be done? Do you think it's possible, like with skill gaps? Do you guys think it's legitimately possible?
I would say no for ranked. I know they do it in Apex where you can have like a crossplay person.
Yeah.
For ranked Apex, but I think they shouldn't add it for ranked. You can just crossplay, and I feel like Overwatch definitely hits a more casual audience than the Apex example. Yeah. So it's like if you want to play with your little cousin, or your little niece or nephew that lives across, where they only have like a PS4 at home, you're able to get a game or two, a few games with them, and quick play. A very casual environment for crossplay, I think, would suit better for a game like Overwatch, which is very pretty and definitely targeted towards a more casual player base, in my opinion, compared to the other ones. And I think that should be the direction. Now, if they make it to ranked, if they make it for ranked, there will be a definite disadvantage for certain heroes. Some of them will be fine, though. There are a couple of GM top 100 players that I play with regularly who play on a controller, but they don't play the aim heroes. None of them are. I think one of them is a Junkrat. One of them is like a tank player, like Ryan Winston. The other one is like Farah. That's it. None of them are hit scan because you're just too limited by like just being able to 180 turn and snap and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would also think that I agree with that opinion. Like I don't think at least for ranked they should be crossplay, and also just because I feel like you need different skill sets for different platforms. I feel like the top 500 they rely more on teamwork. Maybe. Yeah, I could be totally wrong here if they're on like PS5 or something, but because you can't aim. It's weird. I feel like there's different skills needed for different levels on different platforms.
I again kind of totally disagree. I think it's I think you just do it where it's sort of like the Call of Duty model where like you have crossplay for ranked, but it would come for each console disabled, and if you wanted to play crossplay, you would enable it. That way it was sort of like that you're going to be in a disadvantage because obviously if you're McCree main on PS5. Going into a PC lobby, you're going to be disadvantaged. But I'm sure that there will be people on PS5 who'd want to see what their rank is on like the crossplay servers, right? Like they'd want to push themselves to that level. 2, there are maybe friends who like if I'm a Reinhardt player on PS5 and I want to play with my friends on PC, maybe I want to play ranked. Like maybe I don't want to it's another barrier to entry that you can remove. Like instead of having to build a $3,000 PC to play with my friends who have a PC, I just have to like enable crossplay. Like I'm a pretty big fan of like making the player base as big as possible, and I think to do that you enable both crossplay and go free to play. And I think as long as it's like disabled initially, because what you don't want is like a super casual player who gets the game and doesn't know that they have to shut it off because they don't watch KarQ's YouTube videos, right? Like, you know what I mean? And they're like, and they just don't know that they're getting thrown into the wolves against like a 240 hertz. Like they're on the Switch, and they're playing against PC.
They're like
people.
30 FPS against like the
And then they're just absolutely getting dunked on. Like you don't want that. So I think assuming it comes disabled, and if you then want to enable it, you just have to like again select something like Call of Duty has it. I still think that would be sort of the best methodology because again, like I would love to see. I think that'd be great content. The only top 500 controller McCree player in the world, right? Or like I can already see the thumbnails and the YouTube titles coming up from that. Like I think that'd be really cool.
Spencer, but imagine this. I'm like a Reinhardt playing on my $2,000 PC, and I just get placed with like 5 other Switch players. I'm like,
so then you win. Like, what do you mean? Or you're bad. Then it is what it is.
5 other Switch players on my team, and then like a bunch of PC guys.
Yeah, but they'd be the same. But they'd be the same rank as you. So like, it sucks that they're on a Switch, but at the same time, like, why are they the same elo as you are?
Because I'm trash.
Well, exactly. So so then I don't.
I'm bad at the game.
Yeah, I know, but then like that doesn't change. Like you are bad at the game, so like you know what I mean. Like from my perspective, it's like if they go into a crossplay lobby and they are of your skill set and they're in your elo, like I mean, I guess
I see that. I see that side too. Don't get me wrong. I see it too. I know where you're coming from. I think it could work too.
Yeah,
and I have the same belief where if we don't want to intentionally gatekeep anybody out, for without good reason.
Oh yeah.
The bigger the player base, the better. But
there's no wrong answer here, right? We're just like obviously going back to like you would never really know until you actually could in theory try both and see what the numbers are. Just like it would suck I guess have like a Switch McCree player on your team, but that must switch. But
like even so, like I think in just I use the Apex example because I play it, but people actually complain that the console players have an advantage with the whole aim assist thing, and that's another factor to take into. And
I actually don't think that'd be the case for Overwatch, because I do agree, because I was a big Fortnite fan, like especially in the early days of Fortnite competitive, and I remember how that like conversation really like switched, where it was like, oh, control players can't play a PC, like get me out of these PC lobbies, it's too hard. To like slowly over time, it was like, wait a minute, this is actually kind of broken.
Like, wait a minute, that aim assist is really OP. It's really OP.
It totally is. I think Overwatch, because there's so much movement in the game, I actually do think it will still, once again, benefit, and the controller players will have the advantage. Although I could see, again, it'd be interesting for like specific heroes, like where you're really up close and you want that like a ball main, for instance, right? Where that aim assist when you're right near somebody, or like Diva. Like the fact that you can push somebody with Diva and the aim assist can lock in, I think heroes like that actually could benefit the controller player more.
Right.
But I don't think you're going to see a top 500 like controller Widowmaker or McCree player. But I could be wrong. Or like you'll see top 500, but you know what I mean. Like the best in the world won't be. I still think PC players will have that advantage. But I think it's a fun conversation.
Yeah. Spencer, what do you want to cover next? What's on the top of your mind?
Yeah, no, I think so. This is probably one of my favorite new aspects of it, and I kind of want to hear your opinion, because I was like blown away with this, and this was actually honestly probably like my biggest takeaway from this whole thing with Overwatch 2, and that was them like redefining and redesigning the gun design, and how the guns sound, and how the guns shoot and interact with like all the other characters in the games themselves. Because I think a lot of people, especially in the Overwatch community, I know people are like, oh man, the gun sounds are really cool, and that's like a great part of it, and it is a great part of it. I actually do agree. But I think that a lot of people like underestimate how impactful gun design and gun sound can be for the casual audience. Like, because Chris and I also do the like Call of Duty podcast where we cover the Toronto Ultra, and almost from a competitive standpoint, Modern Warfare, which was the previous Call of Duty, is almost like unanimously hated amongst like pros and like a hardcore Call of Duty like CDL fan. Like you talk to any of them, that they hated Modern Warfare for the competitive side of things, like unanimously. But when Cold War first started coming out, I was surprised how many people in the comment sections and on Reddit and in the chat on Twitch and YouTube were talking about how shitty the game looks, and how why don't they just stay with Modern Warfare, and like, oh, the graphics are so bad, these guns sound like paper. Like so many people were just like, oh, the guns don't look as cool and the guns don't shoot as cool, therefore the game's bad. And I think a lot of people have that opinion. So I'm like, and I'm kind of one of them, I'm very, very excited to have the Overwatch team really get to like redesign these guns and give them more like oomph. You know what I mean? When you actually get to like hold them and fire them. I think that's like a really,
My
really
favorite
cool
word in that was the word visceral. I think they said it like 10 times.
Yeah.
Makes the guns feel more visceral.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Give the guns that oomph.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you though. I think sound design is just something you don't really you overlook until it's gone or until you see something like that trail and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Like the immersion and everything really does matter. And I think, I play with the Valorant example, because you've been playing it, you know how all the like the new like Vandal skins, they change the sound. I specifically use a certain skin just to have a certain sound, like that laser version of the Vandal. I enjoy that one more than the default sound, and it just feels like your aim is better because of the sound.
I have
that reload where it's like shing,
exactly.
So I'm glad you brought this up. I actually had this example. I was ready for you to finish your point. I was going to bring up the Vandal example in Valorant because I think it's a great one. So for two reasons. I'm like the opposite end where I actually prefer the like default ones. Like I actually won't use the other ones because I like how like the oomph that the original Vandal has. But it's funny because I literally switched and I thought my aim got better because I was like the gun sounded more like it had more kick when it fired. So I stopped spraying the Vandal and it helped me control my aim more because I'm like new to that sort of genre. It helped me tap fire more because the gun sounded like it had more like kickback. And I was like, and even when the game first came out, most pros when Valorant first came out thought like the Phantom was like the superior weapon, was like the meta weapon. And I think consider myself a pretty like competitive person where like I will use the meta weapon in a game if it is like superior. But I specifically never used the Phantom. I only used the Vandal because I like how the gun shot. Like the Vandal one tap was so satisfying in that game. The Vandal one tap that is like the reason I play. I'll legit go to deathmatch and just try to one tap you with the Vandal because like. That is so satisfying to me. It was same with Rainbow Six, man. Rainbow Six is some of the best gun mechanics out of any game I've ever played, and it legit kept me engaged in that game for 2 years. Even though I hate the fact that you have to spend a lot of time like gathering information, it's just not my personal style. I played because like using the guns and getting the kills are so satisfying, and I can't wait for Overwatch to be like in that class, and which I don't currently think it is. My personal opinion, but I'm really excited. So I'm glad you brought the Vandal. I think it's a great example.
Imagine the sound designers that get to go out to the desert and just shoot guns all day.
Right.
That's so sweet. Like, this doesn't sound good. Let's load another clip.
Do more. And each skin of the hero would have a different, since a lot of them currently have different guns and different styles for each different skin.
Yeah.
Like, how they did it for Torb's hammer with the summer, the little beep beep,
the little
like
squeak.
the squeak, right? So like if they have, new sound design for each skin and each gun too, like
I think it's
I don't know, adds a new layer of
I
new
totally
dimension
agree.
to the game. Yep.
I totally agree. And I think I think people will buy for that sound, like the laser sound. I have a buddy who like loves the Nerf guns. He just like he loves that like look. He loves that how they sound. He loves that it's like kind of silenced. And so he just bought those skins. He's like, oh, I love that. I'm like, hey, not my style, but like the fact that like everybody can kind of like customize their own sort of play style because of these skins. Anyways, so the sound design, I'm actually super excited, and I think that a surprising amount of people will pick up the game but also stay with the game because of it.
Exactly. Agreed.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I guess only a couple more things to cover. I guess Spencer, you probably want to take this one. PV and resources versus PV.
So this started because I was watching Tactical Crouch. And shout out to those guys. They're another content creator in the Overwatch community. I think they put out some really good stuff, especially from a competitive perspective. And this was like, they used an analogy that I was really not familiar with because I never played World of Warcraft. I went from like Call of Duty to Last of Us and to Rainbow Six and all that sort of stuff. But I guess what had happened in World of Warcraft was there was a time when World of Warcraft PvP was like a really big esport. And a lot of like a really thriving community. And if I'm butchering this, if you're World of Warcraft, I'm sorry, I'm not from the community, so I'm sort of like referencing what they're saying. But then as like the PvE side of World of Warcraft continued to grow and grow and grow, Blizzard sort of start to see more support for that side of things, and the PvP side slowly got neglected more and more and more to the point where like it's a shell of its former self. It's not one of the top esports in the world anymore. And I think a lot of PvP fans are sort of like, or old World of Warcraft fans are worried that Overwatch 2 might be the cause of that same sort of cycle where initially, they're trying to support both, but over time, if they realize like the PvE is much more successful or more profitable, are you a little bit worried that the Blizzard team, not going to let Overwatch, the competitive side, die, but maybe that the competitive side won't receive the same amount of resources as that PvE side, and that it's going to start to see, you know, more of the love and more of the tuning and all that sort of thing.
I think everybody strives. I think it's always at the beginning. They're like, you know, we promise that won't happen, but I think it's unavoidable or it's inevitable. Like if one thing is more profitable, and you know, sometimes it'd be like we got to put more resources into, you know, what's working. And I guess I am kind of worried, but at the end of the day, I've learned to accept like that just might be the fate of it. If PvE is just insurmountably better, bigger audience and everything, you know, they're just going to spend more resources on it. There's just no way around it. Which is why like the ones who are on the community on the side where, you know, that's receiving less love, like they got to fight for it. It's kind of like currently with the Overwatch workshop. We've had to like give it a huge push to like add more people to give it more development time and stuff. And I think there was currently only 2 people who worked on it. Literally 1 or 2 people. One of them is just leaving Blizzard too.
Yeah.
As of this week, I saw it recently. I interviewed him, Zach. Yeah. So and he did so much work for the workshop, and then that community is just like, oh man, like we just wish, you know, they wouldn't ignore us or neglect it, but they just know like less people, not that many people play the custom game mode. So like why put more resources into something that less people are not a lot of people are playing. From a business perspective, that's just how things work. But
yeah, that's unfortunate because
it's unfortunate.
Is it like the actual custom game mode issue, or is it a marketing of that custom game mode issue?
Maybe probably a bit of both. Probably marketing and just some things just generally don't hit a wider audience or the bigger audience.
Yeah,
that's just the way it is. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, a couple closing things. You know, for you, what's the your most favorite part of Overwatch 2 you're looking forward to?
When it comes out, no.
Well, actually, that was what I was going to try. Before we jumped out, I was going to say, what are your thoughts on the no release date? But I mean, we can kind of tackle.
It's not coming out. I'm like so certain it's not coming out this year. Everyone's like, oh, because it's not this year, it's going to be next year. But I'm like, they didn't even specifically say it was good. They're planning for next year, so it wouldn't surprise me if it's even longer. I'll be completely honest with you.
You're saying?
Yeah. Or, you know, even the year later. Who knows?
It can't be 2024. If it's 2024, I'll mold. Like, I think people maybe lost their minds a little bit too much by the fact that it's not this year. And I understand that it's like disappointing, but at the same time, like, I always tell people this, like,
4 years.
Sorry, I was gonna say nothing would be worse for Overwatch as a whole. I think if Overwatch 2 was rushed, came out and bombed. Like, I think that is absolutely worst case scenario. So I don't mind waiting another like year or two if the game comes out and is actually really, really good, polished, and fun. But man, 2024.
24 might be pushing it. 23, okay, maybe. That's like the 4-year mark since they announced it in 2019. And that's the Blizzard way. Diablo 3 was announced in 2008, and it finally came out in 2012, I think, 4 years later. So they announce it, or they go, hey, coming out soon, or Blizzard soon. 4 years later. So I think 2 more years, and that's honestly that, you know, you asked me what I'm most excited about. It really might just be when the day it finally comes out.
I could see it. I am of the people who think that like early fall 2020 makes the most sense. 2022, sorry. Like you get out there in September, you get out there in October 2022.
That's like the absolute earliest I could see it, and that's unlikely, but
because then people get time to play it, and you can release it like with the Overwatch League in like January or February, right? And it's like a few months after it comes out, so it's still got that hype. Like, I would sort of love to see that, but 2023 would be tough, but I could do it. 2024, I think that would be the moment where I'm like, okay, I'm actually gonna start to mold. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like early 2023, I could do it. I feel you then. 2024, it's like, okay, I'm gonna move on if it's not here.
Because that's legitimately, man. That's like also 3 years of no content for Overwatch 1. Like people are like, oh man, what's Overwatch going to do for the next year? It's going to die. And I'm like, hey guys, like I don't think it's going to die within the next year. Like we've had like a year long with no content. As long as they keep balancing the game, they throw out like new updates here and there. As long as they know that it's working towards like a bigger picture, I'm okay with it. But like, man, 3 years of no content for Overwatch 1, like like you're actually going to lose a large percentage of your player base. Like I feel like at some point, people are going to move away from this game if there's nothing to look forward to for like that prolonged period of time. So I do think they should really push for like late 2022. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. That's one of my things. So yeah, I guess we can talk about just sort of before we close this one up, because Chris, what are you looking forward to most for Overwatch 2? You didn't give your answer.
I don't hear him. Is
Oh,
that just
Chris,
me or?
Oh, you're muted. Yeah. Sorry, that's why I was.
Yeah. Oh, sorry about that. Wow, technical difficulties. Yeah, honestly, like, I'd hate to piggyback off of you because that's completely unoriginal, but I'm piggybacking off of you as real estate as well.
Yeah. Just when it comes out. Yeah. For me personally, I'm really looking forward to seeing the gun design. I actually can't wait. Gun design and skins. If you give me like really, really cool sounding guns and really, really cool skins, Forest head sounding guns, like that's what I'm most pumped about. But I guess I just want to kind of give your closing thoughts, and we'll give ours on like the overall sort of presentation as a whole, and how you were maybe going into it versus how you were, leaving it, and what you think is going to do for Overwatch.
What are your expectations, Matt?
As a whole.
That's what it's saying.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say I was pleasantly surprised. I went in there. I mean, I've always said, go in there without too many expectations, so you can come out, optimistic, versus going in there with high expectations, just being disappointed after. And I'd prefer the former option. So I went in there not expecting anything, and they're like, "Oh, we're doing this." I was like, "Oh, this is actually kind of cool."
Yeah.
Some of their approach, and if they can really flesh out the PvE. I think that would actually be something that actually piggybacks off the previous question. I actually am looking forward to the PvE. I didn't play that much Destiny 2. I did try like a raid, and I really think that kind of stuff is very fun.
Yeah.
If they make stuff replayable, that's the big thing for me. I find that, I'm a kind of guy that when I play like single player stuff, I don't really do a lot of the side stuff, but I'm a big fan of doing replayable stuff. I have this thing where if I have to grind something over and over again to get something specific, I'll do it.
Yeah.
If it leads to something else. So if they have a mission that maybe you grind it over and over again for some rare drop in Overwatch, like I'm down for that, because I know this is the same team that worked on parts of World of Warcraft are working on Overwatch 2, and they know the whole that feedbacks, the what's it called, the neurotransmitter dopamine. They know how to hit those
feedback loop.
Yeah, positive feedback loop. They know what to do because they know people grind over and over again certain raids in WoW, for example, for like a 1% chance to get like the certain rare cosmetic mount or drop in WoW. And it's the same thing. If I can get like exclusive, I don't know about gun charm or something in PvE, I can play over and over again to get something really cool and exclusive, and I can flex it in PvP. I go into ranked and I play Ana, but like I've got this emblem or something that signifies that I did that.
Yeah.
I play the game a lot.
Just thinking about you're talking about it. If I could like lock in there with like a Zarya, like a cool skin that you get from whatever, or again like
the color of her beam changes because you completed something. Like you're the only one with that color. It's like whoa,
like a rainbow beam or like I'm getting
I feel like we need that.
They do that. Blizzard does that stuff. Did you guys play Diablo 3? They had like the rainbow like whole like meme thing where if you complete the certain like Candy Island like weird rare thing that came up, you would have this like rare Easter eggy kind of cosmetic and weapon thing. It's just the Blizzard's known to do that.
That'd be
and
so
I think
cool.
They will
if you like 100% the game, or like get the platinum trophy, like McCree has like a platinum gun or something, you get like a platinum skin. Like, dude, I would be down to grind that. Like, I'm getting excited just thinking about that. You gotta email Blizzard, tell them what's up. KarQ, hit him up.
God knows, God knows I can't flex via rank, so I gotta flex something else.
Exactly. Yeah. Everyone's like, "Oh man, here comes this really cool Reinhardt. He's got this sick skin. He's gonna be so good." And then Chris just like runs in their backline feeds. I think for me it was I'm just really excited to being able to show Overwatch like a wide variety of people. I think, and we touched on this earlier, I do think that one of the biggest problems with Overwatch is its barrier to entry. Like I try to show my friend the game, and he like games. He's a gamer. He's been gaming for a long time. And he's like he has no idea what the fuck's going on. Right? Like he was like, man, I was pushing this guy and then he turned blue and I died. Like, I don't know what happened. I'm like, I was like, oh man, he got nanoed. Like, you got to watch these cooldowns. And I was like, as I was explaining it, I was like, this is exhausting. Like, I stopped asking to play because I was like, I don't want to teach you the game. Like, it's actually really, really confusing. I literally was like, go watch KarQ. Like, I was like, KarQ will explain some of the videos. Like, I was like, that's like your best bet for like what are the barrier to entries. But you like need to read an encyclopedia to like properly understand Overwatch. I think as a new player, like my friend built his PC and I haven't even remotely talked about Overwatch. Like, there's just no way. So I'm excited to actually like have a funnel, like a path of like a new player being introduced to the competitive side of Overwatch. It's like, okay, they start playing the hero missions. maybe they really liked Lucio's story.
Yeah,
so
and they
start
play
playing.
like the easy mode. They get to see what their abilities are. It's just easier than just throwing them into like a 6 versus 6 right off the game. They're like, oh.
Yeah, it's like go play quick play, and they just get shit on for like 20 minutes, and they're like, well, I'm not playing this. Like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. So, like, give them that pathway. I could totally see somebody being attached to their story, their talents. They know how to wall ride already because they played it in PvE. They're like, oh, I'm really attached to this character, and I'm really good at it. I've like done this really rare raid. Now let me go bring that to PvP and let me try out that hero, and like a one trick is born, right? Like I think that and then over time they grow, right? You start off as one trick and you start to learn this other hero, then all of a sudden you're like a full blown, you actually enter the dark hole that is competitive Overwatch. But it's still like I think that's like really exciting, and I think that a lot of people will actually enjoy that. I think it'd be really healthy for the game as a whole to actually finally have that like pathway to the competitive side of things. So I'm really looking forward. And I think that's the biggest thing that Overwatch 2 brings that maybe not enough people are sort of talking about.
I agree with that. I don't have any more original thoughts, to be honest.
Thanks for your insight, Chris. You're killing it. KarQ comes up with some amazing ideas over here about a raid style. I did my whole rant, and Chris goes, I agree.
That's my go-to answer a lot of times too. A lot of times, I mean, sometimes the other people just say exactly what's on your mind. It's like, hey, I agree. That's
exactly
you
what
hit the nail on the head, or hammer on the nail, whatever the saying is.
Yeah.
The nail on the hammer, on the hilt.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Anyway, KarQ, thanks for coming on, and I really appreciate you dedicated time and chatting about this. I feel like we got some really, really great insights today. So I mean, hey, where can people find you if they are literally following us and not you already, which would be weird. But
we gotta do it anyways.
I'm on YouTube at KarQ Games. I make Overwatch tips and fun. Lately, I've been trying to mess around with some fun content, some coaching content on the Defiant and on the Defiant channel, and I stream. And yeah, that's me.
Awesome. I'll put your YouTube and your Twitch stuff in the description below. So if anybody's interested in checking you out, they can.
They can. And hey, guys, if you guys like what you hear, if you have your own thoughts, once again, feel free to comment in the comment section below. We talked about everything. Smash the like button.
Subscribe to CA Overwatch.
Thanks.
Smash the like button.
Help the algorithm, man. We need all the help we can get. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And as always, enjoy.